Okay, it's another response video on the subject of the Fed. So I'm responding to a video Matt produced or put together or put online anyway on the Federal Reserve, and it was a response to my third video in this series. So I'd already gone over a lot of this stuff, and you know, his video was just propaganda. It's just rhetoric, just meaningless, pointless bullshit. Alright, so I mean, he starts off calling the Federal Reserve illegal. Well, it's obviously not illegal. Okay, I mean, it's not illegal because, number one, the Congress and the Senate do support it completely, and yeah, it just can't be illegal under those circumstances. You know, the executive appoints people to this commission, the whole thing. It's impossible for it to be illegal, just impossible under those circumstances. Every branch of government has endorsed its existence. It's not illegal. So anyway, and then it says the authority to counterfeit money. That's the quote from Ron Paul on the subject. And you know, they're not counterfeiting the money. It's a nice delusion, it's nice bullshit, but it doesn't mean anything. It's complete crap. The deficit incurred by the federal government every year is bonded. Bonds are sold openly up front. Anybody can buy them. Our debt can be purchased. It is not counterfeited away. The Federal Reserve does not counterfeit any money. It allows lending institutions to lend more money than they have collateral to that would allow them to lend, and that's all it does. It's a regulation of the amount of money that can be borrowed through institutions, and the federal government merely secures those loans, and that's all. That's all that's being done here. There's no counterfeiting of money. Again, then they say, you know, they pull the money out of thin air to pay the bills. Ron Paul made some example. They just, you know, computerized, print out $10 million, blah, blah, blah. Of course, yes, that's the way it works. The Federal Reserve says that banks can lend a little bit more money, and so yes, it goes out to the member banks. You can lend more money. That's how it happens. Yeah, but it's not mystery. It's not thin air money. It's all accounted for. It is all put into the economy. It has its impact, and then there has to be a balance. If you know, they put too much money in, then you know, the economy gets too stimulated, then they have to suppress it, and they do the reverse. So it's, you know, it's just a stupid argument to be making. There's no thin air going on. I mean, it's more secretive than I like. It's not as open as I'd like. It might not be even the way I'd like to have the system, but these are just preposterous exaggerations. And then there was the whole argument about backing the money, the gold standard, and Ron Paul admitted he even served on the Gold Commission. And as a member of that commission, I'm sure he had the right to go to Fort Knox anytime he wanted to, and go out there and take a look around, see if there was a lot of gold over there. And I think you would find that there's a big pile of mess of gold there. And I don't think it would be a bad idea to audit it, but of course it costs money to do that. You know, you gotta pay a few $1,000,000 to audit all that gold. And I don't know when the last audit was done. Like I said, I don't know whether there's a computerized system in place for the last 30 years. I don't know what, you know, they might go by weight or some other thing. They might not even need to audit this. I don't know. But the money's, there's gold at Fort Knox. You know, they know that. And the Federal Reserve does give a number for how much gold reserve it's accounting for. So I don't, you know, what's his complaint? His complaint is that we don't have we're not on a gold standard. And so, yeah, the gold, I don't know why we keep the gold. Okay, it's nice to have some gold, but I don't, you know, the country probably should be selling the gold to pay down the debt. That might be a good idea, I mean, especially when gold hits $1,000 or something. When there's a good time to sell, let's sell it, and you know, get some money to pay back the debt. But the whole idea of a backed currency, you know, I've discussed this a little bit. It's I don't think it's I don't. The whole idea that, of course, in the old days they had to actually trade something that had value, you know, because you couldn't trust the asshole you were trading with, so you had to make sure he gave you something that actually had value. But the idea of money symbolizing an exchange has been around a long time, and you know, our contract symbolizing an exchange. You know, you don't trade. I got 5 acres of property. I'll put it in my back pocket and trade it with somebody. I mean, obviously, you have to have some kind of representation of your assets when you go to trade. And the idea of backing money seems rather pointless. Why back it with something? You're sitting here just putting something in a huge reservoir that does absolutely nothing. You're essentially taking a resource out of the economy. And so if we had like a gold standard or something else, it would be detrimental to civilization. It'd be detrimental to the whole world, because all it would do is artificially inflate the price of gold. And that would cost business more. Your cell phones would cost more. Everything that had gold in it would cost more. There's just no point in it. And you know, there'd be no point in having a standard that was made out of some other more common resource. I suppose theoretically the federal government could count oil reserves and land it owns, and it could take all the assets that the federal government owns, put a price tag on them, and then say, okay, we're going to back our currency with Wyoming or whatever, you know, Yellowstone Park and different things, Grand Canyon. You can just say, okay, we're going to back the currency with these assets that the federal government owns. But there still wouldn't be any point to it. I mean, the real point is, as long as the money isn't being counterfeited, as long as people aren't artificially creating money, then it doesn't need a standard. It really doesn't need one. As long as there's not fraud taking place, you don't need a standard. You don't need the money backed with any kind of material good. And in a way, it's better not to have it backed with anything, because, yeah, if everything goes to hell, you're better off having the, you know, asset, so you get rid of the currency. The currency won't be worth anything, because all it depends on is the fact of the existence of the economic system. And so, but you know, it's just a representation. It's a trading commodity. It's a contract. It's in a contract, no matter what you make the contract out of, it would mean nothing if the government collapses. What good is the standard going to do you? You're still not going to be able to go to the bank and get your gold, so you're fucked. You know, I'm sure people that hold the Rocky money, it's not worth anything anymore. Old Confederate money, it's not worth anything anymore. That's always the risk you take. It's all those are, some of those were backed currencies. Backed currencies aren't a guarantee against anything. I mean, they're not a guarantee against disaster, but there certainly doesn't change the inflation rates or anything else, as long as we're not printing the money. I mean, other countries, their currencies failed because they just printed more money. They needed more money to run their government. They just printed it. We don't do that. We pay very expensive interest to people all over the world to borrow their money. So, okay, enough on that aspect of it, but this is just a propaganda piece. It's just a propaganda. It wasn't anything meaningful or valuable in here, just rhetoric. So the video went on. Let's see what else. Yeah, they called it a monopoly, to this private corporation. A monopoly. It's not a, the Federal Reserve isn't a monopoly. There's only, you can only have one organization that controls the money. You can't have 15. So, of course, anything, even if it was a congressional committee, it's still going to be a monopoly. Just because you can't have 15 committees doing the same thing, it wouldn't work. But whatever, does it really make a difference whether it's a corporation? We don't mind having corporations build our space shuttles, and we don't mind having corporations do other things the government finances. So I don't understand why this particular corporation is just too offensive. But whatever, like I said, it's not the way I would do it, but this is hardly, the rhetoric just doesn't go with the facts. So anyway, it went further on, and then it's sort of this whole idea of a police state, and you're not required to file a 1040 by law, but you are required to file income taxes, so blah blah blah, all this bullshit about what the law means. But it was just all this excessive rhetoric. Police state. almost, we've almost lost our right to own property. I mean, all this is just such, it's so excessive. This rhetoric is just excessive. And yeah, you should be called on it. I've made 3 videos, tried to explain what the Federal Reserve does, and you come back with a video that's just bullshit. It's just a platitude. It's just, I don't even know, I got a word for it. It's just this frivolous, superficial nonsense. It doesn't have anything to do with the fucking reality. I mean, was deficit spending a decision the people made or the Federal Reserve made? Answer the fucking question.